In a dramatic turn for Formula One, two influential figures have reignited controversy: Christian Horner and Bernie Ecclestone. While Horner faces internal unrest at Red Bull, Ecclestone has stunned the racing world by expressing interest in returning to the sport, but under one strict condition. This rare convergence of past and present power signals deeper shifts within F1's leadership structure. Horner's role, long considered stable, has been shaken by reports of organizational tension and pressure from senior figures within the Red Bull hierarchy. At the same time, Ecclestone's sudden reappearance in media circles is more than nostalgia. It reflects dissatisfaction with the current management and a desire to shape the sport once more. For fans and insiders, this isn't just news. It's a signal of power realignments that could affect teams, regulations, and even the sport's commercial vision. What has Horner done to spark such internal conflict? Why is Ecclestone returning now? As F1 evolves into a global media powerhouse, the political maneuvers behind closed doors may define its next chapter as much as anything happening on track. Christian Horner's leadership at Red Bull has been remarkably successful. Multiple constructors and drivers' championships attest to that. Yet, even dynasties can show cracks. Recently, reports have emerged indicating growing tension between Horner and senior Red Bull executives. Allegedly, the Austrian side of Red Bull's management has expressed concern over Horner's increasing influence, especially in areas beyond the track. The core issue is control. How much of Red Bull Racing's success is down to Horner, and how much is rooted in organizational infrastructure? This debate has intensified as Horner's role expanded into business and media decisions. Sources claim his involvement in driver contract talks, sponsor negotiations, and even POW. Air unit development has unsettled traditional power balances. Red Bull, once unified behind a singular competitive goal, now appears divided in vision. The internal dynamics may not yet threaten Horner's position, but they suggest a growing discomfort with the centralization of authority. If left unresolved, this tension could reshape the team's internal structure, and possibly Horner's future in the paddock. Leadership in F1 demands results, but also alignment. And right now, Red Bull seems to be questioning both. Bernie Ecclestone, the architect of modern F1's global expansion, has always thrived on control. Though retired from day-to-day operations since Liberty Media's acquisition in 2017, Ecclestone recently stated he would consider returning, if and only if, the FIA reinstates full regulatory independence. His condition highlights ongoing debates about F1's governance. Ecclestone believes the current system has diluted authority, creating blurred lines between commercial decisions and sporting regulations. His comment wasn't aimed at Liberty Media directly, but it carried unmistakable critique. He views the current leadership as too reactive, overly media-driven, and lacking the tough decision-making required to maintain F1's sporting integrity. While many dismissed his remarks as nostalgic, others saw strategic intent. Ecclestone still wields influence among team principals, broadcasters, and long-term partners. His return, under his stated terms, would require significant restructuring, essentially rolling back the governance models Liberty implemented. Though unlikely, the very idea adds pressure to current leadership and raises questions about the future direction of the sport. In F1, power never disappears. It only waits for the right opportunity to reassert itself. The simultaneous controversies involving Horner and Ecclestone reflect more than individual ambition. They represent a clash of legacy versus evolution. Horner symbolizes F1's modern hybrid, a team boss skilled in engineering, politics, and media. Ecclestone represents the sport's raw commercial ascent, when decisions were fast, centralized, and often ruthless. Their current headlines suggest a struggle over who defines the sport's identity moving forward. Horner's influence, especially over the younger generation of drivers and fans, mirrors Liberty Media's approach, entertainment-driven, accessible, and brand-focused. In contrast, Ecclestone critiques this evolution as too corporate, arguing it risks eroding the essence of racing. The friction lies in how F1 balances tradition with transformation. While Horner embraces data, marketing, and performance culture, Ecclestone champions control, hierarchy, and legacy deals. This philosophical divide now plays out in whispers of boardroom unrest and strategic media leaks. Both men shaped F1 in their own ways, but the sport may be approaching a decision point. Does it continue on its current trajectory, or does it heed the warnings of its old architect seeking one last chapter? At the center of this growing power narrative sits the FIA, the governing body responsible for maintaining F1's sporting integrity. Ecclestone's remarks have placed them in an awkward position. Reasserting full regulatory control, as he demands, would require not only organizational restructuring, but also a renegotiation of long-standing agreements with Liberty Media and the teams. Meanwhile, the FIA also watches Red Bull's internal power struggle, particularly as Horner continues to influence technical and sporting decisions. FIA President Mohammed Ben Sulayem has remained publicly neutral, but internal sources say discussions are intensifying over governance clarity. The sport has grown immensely, but so have the complexities of managing competing stakeholders. Sponsors want entertainment, teams want consistency, fans want authenticity. The FIA must now consider how to govern a sport where former titans like Ecclestone still cast a long shadow, and where current figures like Horner may be consolidating too much control. The organization faces pressure from all sides to define its role, not just in enforcement, but in vision. And in a game as political as F1, vision is everything. While the headlines swirl around Horner and Ecclestone, the drivers, those at the heart of F1's spectacle, watch closely. In private, many express concern over the instability at the top. Christian Horner's leadership style, though successful, has at times created tension with drivers over public statements and internal expectations. Max Verstappen, while publicly loyal, is said to have voiced frustration over distractions within the Red Bull organization. Across the grid, drivers value clarity and cohesion in leadership. As for Ecclestone's potential return, reactions are mixed. Veterans who raced during his reign recall the structure and swift decisions. Newer drivers, however, prefer the more collaborative and open media environment Liberty has encouraged. Most agree on one point: the sport thrives when leadership is united. Disruptions at the top inevitably impact team morale, contract negotiations, and even on-track strategies. Drivers may not sit in boardrooms, but they feel every ripple. Their careers are short, and they know that organizational turbulence, no matter how removed, can redefine opportunities and alter trajectories. Liberty Media, since acquiring Formula One, has transformed it from a sport into a global entertainment brand. Their strategy has expanded F1's audience through initiatives like Drive to Survive, digital fan ETs, engagement, and venue diversification. Ecclestone's comments, therefore, are not just criticisms, they're challenges to Liberty's entire philosophy. While Liberty has remained officially silent on Ecclestone's remarks, insiders report increased internal briefings addressing governance concerns. Christian Horner's growing media influence is also under review. Liberty values marketability, but they're also wary of centralized personalities who may disrupt broader narratives. The question for Liberty is balance: how to preserve competition while amplifying entertainment. Horner's Red Bull team has been both an asset and a concern, delivering dominance but also political tension. Liberty's vision of F1 is inclusive and future-oriented. Ecclestone's is focused, elite, and legacy-driven. How they respond to this ideological divide, especially with the FIA now involved, will determine how long Liberty maintains its grip on the paddock. In this storm of personalities and politics, Liberty's next move could define the next decade. No discussion of F1 power dynamics is complete without Toto Wolff. The Mercedes team principal remains one of the sport's most respected voices, and he has carefully navigated the growing tension between Horner, the FIA, and Liberty Media. While he hasn't publicly commented on Ecclestone's condition or Horner's challenges, Wolff is known for his strategic positioning in F1 politics. Insiders suggest he's watching closely, particularly as any shift in governance could impact competitive balance. Wolff has long pushed for transparency, budget caps, and regulatory fairness. He respects Ecclestone's past, but aligns more with Liberty's data-driven future. As for Horner, their rivalry is well documented. Any destabilization at Red Bull could offer Mercedes an edge in both competitive and strategic realms. Wolff's strength lies in his ability to anticipate institutional shifts and shape Mercedes accordingly. If the current tension escalates into structural change, Wolff will be ready. In this complex power triangle, Horner, Ecclestone, and Liberty, Wolff remains the quiet force whose influence, though subtle, often proves decisive. For Red Bull Racing, the Horner controversy could not come at a more critical time. The team is dominating the grid but faces pressure on multiple fronts: technical regulations, driver contracts, and future engine partnerships. Horner's leadership has been central to their success, but his increasing concentration of power has created internal friction. If Red Bull fails to address these tensions, they risk destabilizing their most successful era. At the same time, Ecclestone's critiques could redirect attention toward governance models that might restrict team autonomy in future negotiations. Red Bull thrives on independence, innovation, and aggressive leadership. But in a politically volatile environment, even dominance needs diplomacy. If Horner remains, he must recalibrate his internal alliances. If he exits, the team risks a leadership vacuum. Either scenario holds consequences for Red Bull's trajectory. Success in F1 is never isolated. It relies on harmony between engineering, strategy, and leadership. Red Bull has the first two. Now, its challenge is to ensure the third doesn't unravel it all from within. Formula One stands at a pivotal moment. The Horner-Ecclestone headlines are not isolated events, but reflections of deeper fractures in how the sport sees itself. Is it a tightly controlled competition defined by heritage, as Ecclestone envisions? Or is it a global entertainment platform fueled by media reach, youth appeal, and inclusive storytelling, as Liberty Media believes? Christian Horner is the figure caught in between, part strategist, part showman, part politician. Ecclestone, despite his age and absence, still wields influence powerful enough to shift conversations. The FIA, Liberty, and teams like Mercedes all find themselves navigating a landscape where authority, tradition, and vision are constantly clashing. F1 has always been a balance of engineering excellence and political maneuvering. But today, the stakes are higher, the audience broader, and the pressures global. What comes next may not be decided on the track, but in boardrooms, interviews, and private meetings. One thing is certain: the soul of Formula One is being contested, and the outcome will shape not just seasons, but the legacy of the sport itself.